need to do that, but there's just that desire where you just don't want to be around people. And the Bible tells us in 2 Peter 3:9 that our enemy, Satan, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for whom he may devour. And I want you to know that when you start feeling that stress, when you start feeling that loneliness and that isolation, the first thing that Satan wants to do is pull you away from the people you should be the closest to. Mainly starting with your family, and then it moves on to your church family. So he can get you in a place of isolation so he can really go to work and attack on you. I'm going to tell you something. I've heard many people say, I don't need to go to church to be saved. And that's true. I mean, you don't have to go to church in order to be saved. But the reality of it is we need each other. We need to be in that church family. We need to be able to come and to be able to share our burdens and our griefs and our loneliness and our isolation and our stress and all of those things with other Christian people. In Galatians 6:2, the Bible says, bear one another's burdens. In doing so, you will fulfill the law of Christ. That's what your church family is here for. But this woman was going through all of these things, and she said she was sitting in her kitchen, and she felt very frustrated and very lonely. And she sat there for a long time, and she just wept and cried. And then she said, I noticed a small sparrow had somehow gotten into my kitchen. So I opened the door thinking the sparrow would just simply fly out the door. And to her surprise, the sparrow kept flying into the closed window that was just above the door. And this really surprised her, that this sparrow would fly directly into the window instead of going right through the door to freedom. It was just constantly hitting this window. And the small sparrow, after each time hitting the window, it would come back a little bit weaker and weaker. And I'm going to tell you, that's what stress does to each and every one of us. It continually weakens us. And this woman also noticed that the sparrow hitting the window lower and lower each time he flew into it, until he got so weak that he couldn't even fly, and all he could do was walk. She then noticed this little sparrow very slowly simply walked through the door to freedom. And as she watched this little bird walk through the door, the sparrow began to regain his strength and flew off into the air. And she said although it was just like God literally opened my spiritual eyes. She said, I realized just about every area of my life was behaving just like this sparrow. She was trying in her own way to get out of these situations that she was in. And each time being knocked down in defeat and reacting harshly to her family members and friends. Not giving her best at work, trying to pay back for evil. And she finally realized that all she had to do was just like this sparrow, to very humbly walk in the power of God's grace, mercy, and allow Him to work out all her heartaches and difficulties. Folks, I want you to know something. Each and every one of us are going through a struggle as we speak. Each and every one of us is fighting a battle. Each and every one of us is fighting a temptation. Each and every one of us is struggling with something that nobody in this sanctuary knows about. We all have fear. We all have anger. We all have guilt. And we all have grief. And I want you to hear me when I say this. If you're trying to figure all of this out on your own, if you are not walking in the power of God, if you're not taking it to Him and asking God, what is your will? I'm going to tell you, sometimes a closed door is a great opportunity. Sometimes a closed door is God's way of protecting us. We get angry, we get upset, and the first thing we do is lash out on the people we care about the most. Why? And I often think, because I'm going to tell you, there was times where I would come home